For someone who claims to be into tech, I'm kind of a Luddite. The newest hardware that I've used on the daily has been from 2017, and for the past 2 semesters, I've been daily in a laptop and phone from 2015. Up until this summer. We got a new family laptop, this 10th generation ThinkPad X1 Carbon, which finally gave me an opportunity to reacquaint myself with the latest in tech, from hybrid CPUs to Windows 11. And that put me in a good position to notice all of the changes that the ThinkPad line has seen in the past few years. Because for me, a ThinkPad fan of over 15 years, seeing the recent changes has brought up burning questions. Is the ThinkPad line still able to keep up with the times beyond simple chipset refreshes? Does the product line still have what keeps me and so many others coming back? And what are those qualities in the first place? Today, I'll try to answer those questions and look into the overarching question by looking into the 10th Gen Carbon. Where are ThinkPads now? Coming from daily in a 2015 T450S, my first impressions of the Carbon were pretty positive. Unlike previous models of X1 Carbon, the 10th Gen is actually ultra portable, being both small and light. Weird hump at the top of the screen aside, this laptop looks and feels like a truly modern ThinkPad. The IPS screen, with both its narrower bezels and its 16:10 aspect ratio, feels good to look at. My model's also got a touchscreen. I don't use the touch feature because I hate having smudges on my laptop screens, but it doesn't really hurt the experience for those who choose to ignore the feature. And fortunately, my camera didn't pick up any PWM dimming. If you want an explanation of that, I've got one in my video about the 4th Gen X1 Carbon that I made last year. This holds even on the lowest brightness setting. That does bring me to the fact that, yeah, the screen isn't super bright. Perhaps the other screen options that the machine could have been configured with are, but this one at least isn't very well suited for work outdoors. At least for me though, the screen is fine because it's an IPS panel with a decent pixel density, which may be a given with modern laptops of this class, but certainly wasn't even back as recently as 2019. And so much about the experience of this laptop has improved over those machines. There are small things like the fingerprint reader, which is integrated into the power button, which just make more sense than how they used to do it. One of the biggest gripes that I had with many older business laptops was how they really skimped out on multimedia features. Maybe the pandemic was enough to push them in the right direction, because with this machine, we get a webcam and mic that are more than adequate for video calling. And the ThinkShutter is awesome. Enough said. We also get speakers that aren't total tin cans. With the default device effects in Windows, dare I say, they sound almost like MacBook speakers given the right content. They do make weird adjustments sometimes, though. I'm also disappointed that the tuning isn't done at a firmware level. If you can push the speakers in a way that's designed to be invisible to the user, why not go all the way? But I still do appreciate the improvements that they have made. As for what hasn't really changed, the build quality is still there. The bottom chassis doesn't flex much, if at all. The screen assembly, which is slightly convex to hold the electronics, does give a bit, but that didn't cause any issues when I crammed the laptop into a full backpack, which included, among other things, another laptop. The hinges are perfectly tightened so that I can open the lid of the laptop with a single finger without having to worry about the screen moving all over the place. And the big selling point, the keyboard, is still not bad to type on. Although the keys aren't very concave and comfortable to rest my fingers on anymore, travel is still good for a laptop this thin, and key presses don't feel mushy. The track point with dedicated buttons is also good to have, even if those buttons are a lot shallower. And the trackpad is responsive and feels good to press on. Lenovo did also bring back a few things that weren't so good though. The rubberized surface, which they ditched for a few generations, is back. And it picks up more fingerprints and is harder to clean than the paint on, let's say, the T450S or the 4th Gen X1 Carbon. I/O is cut down a bit too. While the 2 USB-A and 2 Thunderbolt ports, which, side note, unfortunately don't support the Apple Thunderbolt display using an adapter, are welcome, there's no more SD card reader. And battery life is mediocre at around 5 hours max, although this has a bit more to do with Lenovo's choice of processor. For the first time in a while, they opted to use higher power CPUs than Intel's Ultrabook-focused U series. My model has an Intel Core i7 1270p with 4 performance cores and 8 efficiency cores for a total of 16 threads. And I noticed the performance gains. The laptop finished a CPU handbrake transcode of a 2-minute long video from VP9 to H.264 in a minute and a half, around half of the time it took my dual-core Skylake X1 Carbon to do so. Graphics-wise, there's been a huge improvement from the laptops of a few years ago, too, with the integrated Intel Iris Xe chip managing to consistently push almost 60 FPS in vanilla Minecraft 1.21. And it's really nice that I've got 32 gigs of RAM, which is the most I've worked with on a personal computer and also maybe a necessity, given Windows 11's heavy resource use. But that can be the subject of a whole nother video. To end, I wanted to go back to the overarching question of this video. Where are ThinkPads now? And the 10th Gen X1 Carbon gives us an answer. They're still here. Yes, some of the modern laptop market's trends have taken away small things, like key travel, but this laptop still has pretty much all of what I appreciate about the ThinkPad line. When these eventually end up on the used market, I would probably consider getting one if the price was right. But I do also see that the X1 Carbon isn't the only ThinkPad out there, and if anything, it represents the best of the best. When you go down the product stack to, say, the 2nd Gen T16 that I used for work this summer, a lot of the new improvements disappear while some of the new downgrades get amplified. This doesn't keep me up at night, but it does leave me wondering about the future. And I think it's telling that I wrote this video on my 9-year-old T450S, which I'll be bringing back to school with me this fall. Thanks for watching.